You know, words are kind of funny. What does it mean to submit? Well, that would mean that you're kind of throwing it all in and letting somebody else take care of it. You submit. You cower down. You gotta be careful how you use that word, and you have to be careful when things are coming at you and you submit. Now think about that. It's almost tax times. Submit. Are you gonna submit? Hi there, Neil here, the Twisted Light Worker. Words are important. A lot of the truthers who are awake are starting to dig into what common law is all about. Now, there's a reason for that, because the whole British accredited registry, where the lawyers are trained and they pledge their allegiance to the bar first. British accredited registry, that's how come we have so many corrupt lawyers and corrupt DOJ and even corrupt judges. It's such a huge mess that's taking place that we have to take down, and we have to learn a little bit about how words have impact. The Black Law Dictionary, their definition of words is different than what we have in our Webster Dictionary or Oxford Dictionary. So when the judge asks you, are you the person named Neil Sperling? No, I'm not the person. I'm the man named Neil Sperling. I can get into that a little bit deeper. I'm not an expert on common law, but I have a friend who's extremely adept in it, and he's been helping people through the court system and win various types of cases because he's making sure that the people's rights are lived up to, so that he's had a few judges removed from cases because the judge was proven to be corrupt. So common law is something that everybody should know a little bit about. And this chap, he's got a little bit of a talk for you on the word represent. Here we go.
One is to represent yourself or to hire a lawyer. So if you don't like the way things, one is to represent yourself or to hire a lawyer. So if you don't like the way things, one is to represent yourself or to hire a lawyer. So if you don't like the way...
It sickens me that I was made a fool for so long. Answer me something. How in the hell can I represent myself? I mean, I can speak on my own behalf, but I can't pretend to be me. It's not possible for me to represent myself. I can pretend to be you. I can represent you. I can speak on your behalf, but I cannot be you. I cannot pretend to be me. I am already me, and I cannot represent myself. Now, what that judge is saying legally is you have the right to represent yourself, the legal entity. The legal entity that is named on that court order that is legally referred to as you and your. Now, the judge knows what she's saying when she says you and your, and you have the right to represent yourself. But the woman standing over there who thinks that she is the defendant does not know what that judge is saying. And 99.99% of the people who walk into that courtroom don't know what that judge is legally saying. So I'm not saying that the woman should have crossed that bench and punched her in the mouth, but I am saying she would have been absolutely justified and rightful to do so whenever she knows she's speaking a different language than she is. And she knows that she does not comprehend that language. And she knows that the reason the words sound identical yet mean completely different things is so that she can successfully commission identity theft, property theft, and identity fraud against every man and woman that walks in her courtroom. Actively commissioning crimes against the people, knowingly and willfully. I mean, you show me in the Sixth Amendment where I have a right to representation, okay? It says I have the right of counsel for my defense. That means they're going to counsel me, but I still have to speak for myself. They cannot speak on my behalf. They can just counsel me. And before all the police and attorneys jump on here and say counsel means attorney or lawyer, do you really think that when the Sixth Amendment was written that the term attorney and lawyer did not exist? There's a specific reason why the founders chose the word counsel as opposed to attorney or lawyer. What should be happening is that when we go to these courts, we should have 25 people with us. And when they witness them judges commission capital felony treason, those 25 people need to issue a grand jury indictment against that judge right then and there for capital felony treason.
See what I mean by words are important? Capital letters in your name when you receive something from the government. Every letter in your name is capitalized. And that's not you. Just the first letter of your name is capitalized. That gets into the details of your birth certificate. How our person was hijacked and controlled by the evil dictators who did everything for the money. Everything for the money. All my videos right from the start, right from the beginning of the pandemic, I exposed some human trafficking in 4 video series, and as soon as I put them out, boom. Facebook, Minds, Twitter, LinkedIn all took me off their platforms. Kaboom. There was no discussion. There was no jail time. There was no just removing a video or putting a cover over it. No, they completely banned me. So I had to start all over. I had 30,000 followers and all of a sudden I had 0. So it's been a challenge, and I take a little bit of a different approach because I want to see people being powered. I want to see people getting up off the couch. I want to wake up the lions. There's a lot of people who are very capable of doing a whole lot more than they are right in their own communities. First, of course, you have to clean up the cobwebs in your own mind. That's where it starts. You build that relationship with the divinity, that spark of the divine, your soul personality, your warrior spirit inside your body. You want to make sure that connection is really strong. Then you want to worry about your home and your community. So there's so many things that we can do. And Promethean Action, they put together a flyer to help people get out in the streets and do something positive for the midterms, promoting Trump's economic policies. People are not talking about his economic policies enough, because in order to bring in 𝓱𝓮𝓻𝓸𝓭𝓾𝓬𝓮, the gold-backed currency, what is that? That's all economics. That's all economics. So people need to get tapped into Trump's economic policies and see what he's really up to. So Promethean Action, I really like them. Their research is really detailed, and their talks are right full of information worth knowing. So I encourage you to join their website, and where were we here? Get some of those flyers from Bat.Taking. That's where you can get those flyers. And PrometheanAction.com, not Promethean Pack for the flyers, and Promethean Action for their video series and other links that they have of books and everything else that's available. So check them out. Very much worthwhile. And to give you a little indication, a little bit more, and let's talk about what's really going on behind Trump and Iran, Venezuela, what he's doing with the insurance companies that were insuring that were going to refuse the insurance on the boats to get the oil into, so it could be delivered all the way to China through the strait. So let's listen to what they have to say so you get a taste of why I'm recommending them. Here's Promethean Action with 2 short clips from some of their videos.
Lloyd's of London blinked. Just days after suspending shipping insurance for oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, They reversed themselves and announced that they want to work with the United States to keep ships and oil moving. Most people think they know why. President Trump had called their bluff and announced that he would keep the Strait open.
I will not allow a terrorist regime to hold the world hostage and attempt to stop the globe's oil supply, and if Iran does anything to do that, they'll get hit at a much, much harder level. In the meantime, during this brief disruption, the United States is offering political risk insurance to any tankers operating in the Gulf.
That's some of it, but not all of it. He also called Russia's President Putin, and he lifted some sanctions on Russian oil in a move that the globalists called self-defeating. But that's still not the whole story. The real reason is that the world is going through a fundamental remake, thanks to Donald Trump. The president now describes Britain as a former ally, and an even bigger scandal has erupted about the British, about the money ties between London and Iran's new supreme leader, 𝓯𝓷𝓽𝓻𝓮. Globalist think tanks and press will continue to insist that Donald Trump is stumbling into another forever war, that he's unleashing economic chaos and courting midterm disaster. I'm Susan 𝓘𝓷𝓽𝓻𝓸𝓭𝓾𝓬𝓮, and for decades I've exposed how the modern British Empire lurked in the shadows, keeping the world in turmoil with wars, economic control, and terrorism. Now, thanks to Donald Trump, it's out in the open. So if you want a map of this new battlefield, hit the like, subscribe, and share buttons to stay in touch and help us expand our reach. Today, I'm going to look at three things. First, what Trump did to force Lloyds to blink. Second, the money ties between Iran's new supreme leader and London. And third, how John Bolton, Mark Carney, and other globalists are out in the cold, along with London. So the U.S. engagement with Iran is not exactly playing out as the globalists expected. The cancellation of war risk insurance by the empire's oldest insurance company was supposed to bring shipping to a halt, spike oil prices, and shatter economies. Operation Epic Fury was supposed to be economically and politically disastrous for President Trump and backfire against him. But the president was ready. He moved on three fronts simultaneously, and Lloyds never recovered. First, he announced that the Development Finance Corporation would step in with political risk insurance. Lloyds had pulled coverage. Washington replaced it within days. Second, he announced the Navy was on notice to protect shipping in the Strait as needed. And third, this is the move that tells you everything about how differently this president thinks. Trump lifted some sanctions on Russian oil. Not only that, he got on the phone with President Putin to discuss the conflict in Iran. So let's put this all in context. Last week, Donald Trump branded Britain as our former closest ally, the same Great Britain which has led the charge to sanction Russia and keep the Ukraine war going, and the same country which is home to Lloyds of London, which just tried to strangle world oil supply. So instead, Trump turns to Russia to get oil moving and chats up Putin for an hour. Now, here's something else you didn't see coming, especially if you've been imbibing the Israel runs Trump Kool-Aid. Yesterday, Axios carried this headline, Scoop. U.S. asks Israel to halt strikes on Iran's energy infrastructure. Axios reporter Barak Ravid reported three reasons: protecting Gulf energy stability, avoiding price spikes, and preserving Iran's oil sector for post-war cooperation. This is the same approach that President Trump used with Venezuela. Trump isn't protecting the regime. He's planning for what comes after it, and it doesn't conform to Israel's objectives. So think about what that means. Israel doesn't have a blank check. The Gulf states are being protected. Iranian oil is being preserved for the Iranian people after the regime falls. This is not a neocon war plan. This is a president managing the endgame while the bombs are still falling. Now, here's another page from the neocon playbook being put into the shredder. The page about how Trump's Iran moves are aimed at China.
We're in a very good position, but very unfair to other parts of the world, like China as an example. I mean, we're doing this for the other parts of the world, including countries like China. They get a lot of their oil through the straits. So we're doing this. We have a very good relationship with President Xi in China. I'm going there in a short period of time, and we're protecting the world from what these lunatics are trying to do, and very successfully.
So line it all up. Trump called Lloyd's bluff and called Britain our former ally. Then he eases sanctions on Russian oil and calls Putin. And he says he's doing it for China and the rest of the world. No wonder heads are exploding in think tanks in London and Washington. This is the real story, not the missile strikes or the carrier movements or the panic market headlines, but the strategic landscape being remade in real time. And this is what Promethean Action covers every day. So head on over to our website and sign up for our free newsletter. The link is in the description. Because the empire isn't just being outflanked, it's being exposed. And part of that exposure is the financial ties between the mullahs and London. Back in January, Bloomberg dropped a 2,700-word article, which just sort of sat there like an unexploded bomb. Until now. When you look at the title, you'll know why. How the son of Iran's supreme leader built a global property empire. Now, that son of Iran's supreme leader is 𝓘𝓷𝓽𝓻𝓮, who was just elected as the new supreme leader several days ago. And the global property empire, well, it's concentrated in London. Bloomberg tracked the financial holdings of 𝓘𝓷𝓽𝓻𝓮. The front companies managing their family wealth aren't registered in Tehran. They're registered in the Isle of Man and St. Kitts. The Isle of Man and St. Kitts aren't random offshore jurisdictions. They are nodes of the City of London's offshore banking network. The same City of London that just tried to spike oil prices against an American president at war. So let's call it what it was. The Iranian Revolution wasn't a revolution. It was a management arrangement. The mullahs raged against the West in public, and in private, the family money went to London. And this isn't the first time. Go back a few decades to the infamous Al-Yamama deal with Saudi Arabia, the largest arms deal in British history, connected to the royal family. An arms deal that provided off-the-books money flows that could be traced to 9/11 participants. Quick footnote. The first foreign visit that Donald Trump took in his first term was to Saudi Arabia to tell them to stop financing Islamic terrorism. He knew then, he knows now. And you can bet that Trump's team, especially Scott Bessent, can read a Bloomberg article. So the Al-Yamama deal was version 1. The Khamenei property empire in London is another version. Britain has been financing Islamic fundamentalism for decades. The chaos in the Mideast with Iran as the crown jewel, that was part of the business model. And London managed it for 47 years, until this week. And this week, Trump made sure that the world could see it. So the insurance checkpoints are being replaced. The Khamenei money trail leads to London. Trump is remaking the strategic landscape. What's the establishment's response? John Bolton is giving interviews that reflect a certain state of mind.
Well, I've said from time to time, the only question is who gets me first, the Iranians or Trump?
Now, Bolton's actual complaint is that Trump doesn't play by the rules which have kept presidents in check.
It's not at all clear to me that Trump is. He doesn't do grand strategy. He doesn't even do policy the way we normally understand it. So I'm not sure exactly what his thought process is, because we know the normal National Security Council process is all but non-existent in this second term.
Did you catch what Bolton is actually defending? A national security process. The one that produced 20 years in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, the one that managed the Iranian threat for 47 years without ever resolving it, because resolving it wasn't the point. Now, here's someone else who's out in the cold. The central banker's prime minister, Canada's Mark Carney, the man the globalists have assigned to try to rescue some kind of rules-based order.
We were not consulted before it began. We're not engaged in the conflict. We do not intend to engage. What we are doing, where we are engaged, is dealing with the consequences of the conflict, consequences that continue to spread.
That's the special relationship in 2026. The City of London's chief spokesman standing outside the fence, waiting to see how it ends. Now, there are still way too many voices in Trump's own base right now saying he's been captured, that Bolton got his war, that the globalists won, that this is Iraq all over again. But look at who's actually complaining. Bolton can't get his national security process. Carney can't get in the room. The people who ran the old system are on the outside looking in, and they're furious. That's not what a neocon takeover looks like. Now listen to who is in the room.
You know, as someone who led soldiers in the streets of Baghdad and Samarra, Iraq, and who trained counterinsurgents in Kabul, Afghanistan, and who still carries the weight of brothers lost to Iranian terrorist proxies, this fight, Operation Epic Fury, it hits home. You see, this is not 2003. This is not endless nation building under those types of quagmires we saw under Bush or Obama. It's not even close. Our generation of soldier will not let that happen again, and nor will this president.
In that interview before, Bolton had called Iraq a military success. Hegseth, on the other hand, carries the weight of the brothers it cost. That's the difference between the old vision and the new one, between the men who managed the imperial order and the men who paid for it. A generation that went to Baghdad and came home knowing exactly what the old system cost, and a president who finally asked them to finish the job. That's what the global elite are looking at from the outside. That's why Lloyd's of London had to blink, because for the first time in a very long time, an American president is conducting an American foreign policy, not an imperial one. And the success of that policy depends on you. President Trump needs people who understand what he is doing to defeat the real enemy. Become a member of Promethean Action and be part of that movement, a movement that keeps people focused on the real fight and the real enemy, the ones we've been fighting for 250 years. This has been your Wednesday update. Thanks for watching.
Okay. Yes, this article here. Trump targeted by 4 FBI code-named counter-intel probes that ensnared hundreds of Americans. So,
okay, so what this is really something which is very, very dramatic, but you kind of miss the import of it, even if you just look at that headline and think, okay, what they're talking about is the criminal investigations that the FBI and the deep state did of Donald Trump. That's not what's being talked about here. What's being talked about here is what is called a counterintelligence operation, which means something quite different than a criminal investigation. It's what we use after 9/11. Essentially, all of the things towards Americans came off, particularly if they were terrorists trying to operate here in the United States after 9/11. So that a counterintelligence investigation is not necessarily aimed at getting a criminal indictment. It's aimed at what the FBI calls neutralizing the target. And that means I can use any means necessary, from illegal black bag jobs to wiretaps to contracting stuff out to the media, and the media becomes the carriers of my message. It's all conducted under an executive order called EO 12333, which very few people talk about. And when people jump up and down and they say, why isn't anybody in jail yet? Well, here's part of the answer. These files, which are being exposed by Solomon and Kash Patel right now, are files which were hidden even from most people in the FBI. They were in a category called privileged access, and they were hidden in various SCIFs because most of these things are classified. They involve classified techniques, obviously, what I just told you. The FBI under 12333, or the CIA for that matter, can lie about the very existence of these organizations and who's actually involved. So this is a really big deal. We know about one of them, Crossfire Hurricane, which was actually Russiagate, which, if you think about it, carried forward through the Mueller investigation, which was a criminal investigation after they did all this illegal nonsense with the British, and the British actually triggered that. And so that went for literally the first 2 years of Trump's first term. Right after that, we had the Zelensky-Trump, telephone call, so-called, and the whole impeachment, because that was about Trump opening up the idea on that telephone call about the Biden family corruption. And that in turn generated an investigation in, basically starting in, we think, January of 2020, called Round River, most of which is still classified, and Kash Patel is right now going through to declassify it. But what that was the FBI office in Pittsburgh, the Attorney General asked them to take a look at Rudy Giuliani's information about the Biden family corruption. And somehow he assigned it to the FBI office in Pittsburgh, which had been deeply involved in the Mueller investigation of cyber crimes and everything else. All right. So the whole thing was kind of, what's Bill Barr doing here anyway? Why is he doing this? But then they turned it around and basically turned it into a dragnet against anybody who talked about, corruption of the Biden family and Ukraine corruption, going all the way up to the 2020 election, where you remember you had those 53 intelligence operatives essentially fabricating a thing which said the Hunter Biden laptop story is Russian disinformation. That's what this thing called Round River is about. And any journalist, any person who was actually talking about Russian corruption, or Biden family corruption during that period was a target. They estimated targeted more than 400 people, and included Susie Wiles, and all sorts of really crazy illegalities. Then right after that, you had Arctic frost, which occurred after January 6th and after the electors were given by the Trump campaign to actually challenge the 2020 election. And what happened in Arctic frost is that they targeted for destruction the entire MAGA movement. They targeted for destruction over 400 political organizations actually, supporting Donald Trump, and every major person actually supporting him, and ran that operation. Then you had another one called Plastic Echo, which was about setting up the Mar-a-Lago raid. All these things involve extraordinary techniques, many of which are illegal under the Constitution. And if they go into a criminal investigation, I'm entitled under the Constitution and various procedures to actually say, okay, how much of this investigation is derived from all the nonsense you did prior to turning it into a criminal investigation? That has never worked. And that's why these techniques are very dangerous and should be outlawed. But that's really what these things are about, and it's explosive. And it's been driven off the front pages largely because it answers the question, how come nobody's in handcuffs yet? Well, if I hide the files, and not only that, and how come certain people haven't been fired, which is the other question. Well, some of them, are cooperating and showing us where the files are and who was actually operating and doing this. So we're making huge and significant progress. The next thing that's going to happen, and we'll get to that in terms of the Save America Act questions, is a explosive coming this week or next revelation about Chinese and other foreign government infiltration of our voting rolls with fake voters. And that's going to be coming up probably, they say at the end of this week or next week, involving Maricopa County in Arizona. So hold on to your seats, folks. This is really dramatic. It's really good. And it's going to result in one criminal case, which we know of, and total exposure of everything that actually has been working here.
Yeah, let me go ahead and just play that John Solomon clip for everyone right here.
Donald Trump and his supporters were targeted by 4 consecutive FBI code-named counterintelligence investigations, over the last decade. From the moment President Trump secured the nomination in the summer of 2016 to the moment he raised his hand for his second inauguration in January 2025, he was subjected to 4 straight consecutive counterintelligence and probes, each of them designed to try to find some form of criminality against him. Each of them, or in total, they subjected hundreds of innocent Americans to privacy-invading tactics, things like their phone records being taken, grand jury subpoenas, extraordinary developments and intrusions on their everyday life. And the FBI, before Kash Patel came in, essentially treated the man twice elected president as a national security threat. That's what a counterintelligence investigation is. That means for almost the first 9 years of his career, the FBI only saw Donald Trump as a potential threat to national security.
As you can see, they're very detailed, very knowledgeable, and a good bunch of people. Everybody needs to learn a little bit of details and not worry about their own silver prices going up. Get up off the couch and do something, learn some common law. Way back, I made this video on 17 action steps that we all can be doing. Every one of us can be doing and playing our part in making this whole earth realm a better place to be. And I encourage you to watch that video, 17 steps. I make some fun. All my videos, I try to make a little bit of fun as well as proof of white hats and a little bit of inspirational, personal empowerment messages. This is the thumbnail of another video that I recently did. I definitely encourage you to watch that too, because it's talking about the proof of all of the evil that was around the jab, COVID-19 and all of that other nonsense that was part of the whole beginning of the pandemic. Everything possible to reduce the population of humanity. Now that particular video covers a pretty good talk and showing how the case against all those involved in the the killer jab is coming to light. It's hitting the courts, and that's going to be a worldwide thing. There's so many things happening. You think about it, Epstein files coming out, 3 million pages for people to sift through to see what's been going on. The fixed 2020 election is coming out, and now all of the court hearings going on around the jab. It's an exciting time to be alive. There's so much going on. Now, here's something else that excites me. Sidney Powell, JAG lawyer, military in operation, COG, continuity of government, think, putting all these pieces together. President Trump to name Sidney Powell as DOJ special attorney that he is calling his elections czar to investigate and prosecute voter fraud in the 2026 election. Midterm elections. There is no more fitting of a patriot to put in charge of ensuring that those who attempt to subvert the will of the American people and rig our elections are held accountable than the woman who exposed the stolen election in 2020. Sidney Powell put her career on the line, and now she has been totally vindicated. The radical left thugs are shaking in their boots after hearing that Sidney Powell is coming out to release the Kraken. Oh boy, things are looking really good. By 2027, that's when we're going to start to see some big action. +2 +0 +2 +7 adds up to 11. Now, anybody that studies numerology, 1111, they know how important that is. 11 is an important number, and you don't add the 2 ones up to get 2 in numerology. That's normally what you do, but 11 is sacred. So we're going to see that sacred coming back, flipping the world right side up. The evil ones had it upside down. They had their ego at the top. No, we're flipping it back to right side up, and God, sacred, is at the top. And by 2030, our agenda will be in full operation, and we will thrive and be happy. Many of the new technologies that have been suppressed are all going to be coming out. watch some of my videos on farming. There's a weed zapper that's going to help us eliminate the Roundup that's in the field, the poison that they're spraying on to kill the weeds. That's going to be something that can be done with a laser. The technology is very expensive today, but wait till competition comes in, they streamline it to make it something simple. You watch. The whole world is going to make such a transformation. We're all going to thrive and be happy. Just like I said, thrivalism is what I called it. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to cut this off right now. I'll give you enough to think about. Make sure you follow my channel. I have subscribed, and every once in a while I'm just starting doing 10-minute to 12-minute video. Most of them are going to be that, and I call it Timeless Treasures, where it's all dedicated to that inspiration and empowerment and sacred and spiritual information. Those talks are going to be very valuable. So watch that. I put them all in the playlist, so check the playlist out when you're done watching this video and see what I've got started on it. It's just brand new out of the box. I think there's only 3 or 4 videos there, and I've got about 5 lined up to make the time to record. But making the time is not always easy, just like you know. But getting up off the couch is so important. Waking up the lions, waking up the lion in you. Tap into that spark of the divine that's inside you. A number of people who have bought me coffee. I'm so grateful for that. I have the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description down below. Always check out the description below of all podcasters and content producers, because in the description below there's always valuable links. So don't just watch a video and move on. Check out the description and see what else they're sharing, because every podcaster out there shares something valuable, and I always have something worthwhile in my description in my videos. So do check out that. Like, share. Big thank you again to the ones who have supported me with a few coffees here and there. It really keeps me inspired to do a little bit more research and keep the videos going. So I'm very grateful for that. Big thank you. And together, you know, we're going to make this world a better place. And I'll do my part, you do yours, and you watch. The whole world will transform right before our eyes. And from that spark of the divine that's inside me, I wish you and yours peace profound.